It is really enjoyable, but they're, you know.
Wow.
That was good, and it's warm, and then that was crazy, you know, all the things.
I'm not to recruit, but you know, we have like a path for bachelor from.
Where does your daughter,
For bachelor's.
charter school or what?
She's at St. Vincent's.
A lot of our students.
Oh, that's cool. Is that a Catholic
So
school?
it's,
Oh, okay, awesome.
yeah, it's a good place.
There's a lot of support for hosting freshmen.
No,
If you like St. George, it's kind of hot.
I don't, you
It's
live
nice in November.
I don't know where Holly is, but.
Anyway, I just got here from El Salvador this morning.
I live by Old Mill Golf Course. That seems to be a good landmark that people know, but.
So how big is your school? Is it
So-
all grades?
It's K-3.
Oh, that's cool.
So it's quality.
It's needed.
We got a special.
It's kind of small.
And then will she go to a mainstream high school? or
I
will
think
she
so.
go to-
She'll probably go right. Juan Diego and Judge are the two. Areas.
Because they or something else instead of.
So she would have to pay for it
Yeah, the
after
other day
too.
she's
Like,
like.
But what was weird about it was they didn't.
like,
Yes.
You do.
Good idea.
I thank you, my wallet, look, thanks. It's good to see you. Yeah, of course.
I got this.
Yeah.
Expectations.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. Helen, did you get
Tim,
the
how are
first
you?
charge? Okay, perfect. How are you today?
All right, let's get started. I need a giant gavel. Hey, David, you don't.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Sorry, say again?
You need to be quiet, or I'm gonna have Dan hold you down.
Okay.
Can we get started? Are you guys good starting?
Yes.
Okay, let's just jump in. And hey, thank you. And let's start with something fun. We've got some new members. And I'm gonna do the brief intro, and then because we've got two brothers, let's play around with this. Okay, Becky, welcome. You are our newest voting member, and I see all sorts of cool things about you. You are a former student. You've got some real world experience with this, and I think what we do is really important, but I want you to introduce yourself and tell us something that we wouldn't otherwise know. So be a little bit creative, but go ahead and you got the call to order? All right, we do need to, we're not gonna do that yet. Okay, Becky, the time is yours. We'll get to the minutes.
Hi, I'm Becky Gawley. I'm a former student of every institution that was offered at the Utah State Prison, and I'm very grateful for that. It changed my life, being able to further my education. It's something I'd always wanted to do, so I'm really grateful for all the work that is done behind the scenes that you guys do for this to happen for me. And something about me is that I could probably outfish any guy in this room on the river any day.
So do you do it the wrong way with a fly rod, or do you do it?
Oh, no. I use Vibrex spinners, and I learned that from Captain Strong at the prison. Yeah, he was always sharing his fishing tricks with me, so
I might take you up on this.
anyways, but yeah, I love
I'm not
fishing the river.
convinced.
It's a challenge.
Challenge accepted.
Okay, all right, now we've got Dan. But I actually think it's gonna be more fun to have David introduce him. So I'm just gonna throw a little wrench in it. So Dan served on the board of pardon parole. Dan is the brother of David, and David, I want you to introduce your brother, and then you can rebuttal, of course.
I'm proud to do that. So it's interesting because we're both we grew up in the same home, and we're California transplants, and Dan went to UCSD for his bachelor's in philosophy. Then he received a master's in philosophy from U. And from there decided to go into the field of law. He liked the philosophical, perspective that he could bring to that. And then he's been a prosecuting attorney, and he was the chief attorney for the Utah Department of Corrections for a while, and now sits on the board of pardons. And when he was appointed to that position, I was thrilled, because it's such an important role, and I can't think of anyone that would do a better job of balancing the need to protect the community with also recognizing the importance of growth and that people go through and to be able to sit in that position and make those calls. So it's very nice to have representation, just generally speaking, of the Board of Pardons here with us as councils.
Who's the older brother? I mean, it's pretty obvious that David's the older brother, but.
Yeah, let's see. Yeah, yeah.
All right, Dan.
Where are you
welcome.
saying that I look so old?
You can
Just a longer beard.
you can introduce yourself. Any rebuttal?
No, that was really awesome. Yeah, no, I'm really happy to be here and what a great important role and to have so many people from so many important institutions. And we're all tied together as a criminal justice system. It's a system and we all need to work together and work hard, and that includes all interests and all parties in that. So excited to be here.
Well, we appreciate having the two brothers. The one thing that's clear to me is that older brother really cares about this issue and is a very good advocate for this entire venture in providing this education. So if you're an advocate like your brother, I think we're gonna be in good shape. Okay, Megan Rice is our third one we're gonna introduce from Ensign College, non-voting member. She's actually excused from our meeting today, or we put her on the spot. Megan is the Director of Prison Education at Ensign College and is agreed to join our group. I don't know Megan, I hear she's wonderful, but those are our members we're welcoming. Because you are now a voting member, Dan, can you make a motion to approve the minutes? Can you do that for us?
Sure. Well, I'll make a motion to go ahead and approve those minutes from last session.
Okay, that motion is before us. We come from the legislature, we do Mason rules, so I guess we do Robert's rules, so I do need a second. And the second is actually, I heard Dan, I got David made the motion, Dan seconded the motion, that's what I heard. So is there discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion from Dave and Dan, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Okay, I'll rule it that.
That was
Any-
flipped. This is David.
I did flip it. I'll rule it passes unanimously with the motions coming from the two brothers.
Yeah.
Okay, little brother made the motion, older brother seconded.
There you go.
There we go. So I came from a family, I'm a Mike and my brother was Mark. And he spent his whole life, you don't know this, David, but he spent his whole life being called David because of the decision of your mother, so.
And now what's interesting is I often get called Don, and that's our father is Don, so, and people
It's
don't even
even
know.
worse.
Yeah.
Okay, let's just jump into the items today. We've got a busy agenda. Let's jump right in. And we're gonna start right in with Chief Honey, evaluation of the jail, education pathways, job opportunity. And I'm just gonna give this section to you and let you jump in.
Yes, so please, Richard has our presentation and we'll go through that. And please, if there's any questions, comments, feel free to just cut me off, raise your hand, whatever, and we'll just go through this. So. So just to get started, we're gonna start out, in the Utah Department of Corrections, we recently combined a couple different areas just to centralize our reentry efforts. So we have our former programming division, which is now the reentry and rehabilitation division. And then we've also brought on our community correctional centers. So they all fall under one umbrella, therefore we can help transition people from our institutions out to the community and re-enter them into society. So you can go to the next slide. So I'm Chief Randall Honey. I'm over all of our institutions. I oversee all of our clinical teams, all of our educational teams. And then Chief Bart Mortensen, he is over our community, which oversees our reintegration team and our community correctional centers. You know, the next one. So I wanted to start off with this announcement that came out. And so I sent out messaging to the group. I think Richard sent it out for us. But the FCC, there was a ruling that actually was going to stop all of the telephone surcharges that came through. And this was going to stop in 2026. However, they came out and they waived that ruling and reverted back to the 2021 ruling, which now gives us until April 1st of 2027 to collect those telephone surcharge accounts. And if you go to the next slide, this is why that is important. So our total fund for FY '25 is $2.26 million for for education. 82% of that fund comes from our telephone surcharge account. So roughly $1.8 million. So when that goes away and we're not able to collect that, we have to have another revenue source to make up for that money. And so that's what we're looking into right now with our tablet providers, trying to figure out how we can leverage our contract to gain that revenue back in. We need to get that in place well before 2027. So it'll be by next fiscal year that we have to have something in place so we can keep moving forward.
Can I just jump in? So what is your possibility with the tablet providers? Because we need to make sure. I mean, I thought we were super creative. I got kind of hammered a little bit by sticking it on the alcohol tax, and I thought I was gonna hold it there, and I was close.
And it was a great idea.
I mean, I got some one-time money. I held it there for a while. I thought for sure I was gonna get it, but I had a few colleagues that didn't love that. But what does that look like from your end?
So we've been meeting with different tablet providers. Some tablet providers offer they have premium content that the offenders can go in and use movies, music, different commissary, things like that, apps where you can play games, and they have to pay to use those. Well, a portion of that percentage would come back to the Department of Corrections. And so that's the avenue we're looking into right now.
Any idea what the amount would be?
As of right now, it all depends on obviously how many of the offenders use that, but we anticipate it'll be close to around the 2 million mark.
Okay.
So it all depends on how much they use, but with the other states' models that use this,
It's close.
our model show that it should cover that.
Okay, cool.
And that's one thing right now, we're working on a proposal for our executive team to kind of lay all of that process out. We have to get all of the data from all of our different vendors and we'll go into a little bit more about tablets.
Really quickly, did that ruling completely eliminate the telephone surcharge, or is there any that's left over?
It completely eliminated it. So it basically put a cap on what any telephone provider could charge any institution. So you're talking any correctional facility, a county jail, a prison, a detention center, it puts a cap, a federal cap. And so it drops it completely down. So yeah, there's absolutely.
Well, I'm sorry, but you say there's a cap, so is there a certain amount that is coming through still? It's just cap lower?
Right, so right now you have, I mean, this is different phone companies charge different amounts. And this is one issue we deal with our county jails right now. So some county jails use different phone providers. And so a state offender at a county jail might have a higher, in order to make a phone call, it might be, $1.25 a minute, whereas at another county jail, it could be $3 a minute. And it's all because of what the telephone provider charges. Well, the federal ruling will drop that down, and don't quote me on the exact price, it's in that letter, but I think it drops down like 14 cents a minute or 25 cents a minute. It's extremely lower. So there's gonna be no surcharge on it. It'll be a straight fee going straight to the phone company.
Yeah, and those are managed federally. Those companies are not state, they are federal, and which I know that there's issues with when every time you move locations, they make you start over. So whatever money they did have in that account is just eaten by that company. And so the families or support system pay multiple times over every time there's a new location. It's frustrating, but we don't have any control over that. So anyway, the tablets are the only way for us to kind of reconfigure, what do we want moving forward.
Yeah.
States like California provide free phone. It's millions of dollars a year. So this is a way of comparison of what we can't do when we talk about Democrat states.
I've been concerned how this will ultimately affect specifically data stack. Dan, do you feel comfortable sharing of like what you guys are looking at and what may happen down the road?
Well, we were enthused when the injunction was put in place. again, with the cap on what can be charged now, which, correct me if I'm wrong, I think it's like 2 cents a minute now or something.
Yeah,
You
and I
can't exceed
yeah, I
that,
can't
but
remember the exact.
I mean,
It is 2
we're,
cents.
Oh, is it
we
two
really
It
are
used to be- I
faced
think we
with-
were charging like 10,
correct.
and now we can't charge more than 2 cents. So it's really low as it is, but now we just don't have any excess to use for education that
We
we
will
designed it
lose our
for.
funding source if something isn't put in place.
So-
Whether it be in the governor's budget or the tablet or
Yeah.
someone's Google.
So here's what I'd like, Chief Honey, I think we need to get you guys to run it up you have your process you have to follow, I don't have to follow it. We need to get an ongoing request through the governor's budget. And then if you've got it coming through, I can run one through on this. Senator Weiler reached out to me, I think you've been talking to Senator Weiler, he's pretty worried about it as well. And I think we can get some support, the numbers in the budget, I mean, we don't know yet. We've got some bad economic data, but we need to get something steady. And I think lesson from last session, I know we got some one-time money, but I think what we do is we just ask for ongoing money and lock it in and just try to lock it up.
And that
'Cause
was, sorry.
that's what we need to do.
That was the original intent of this committee, was to come up with a combined line item funding mechanism so that between the educators and, and UDC, that it's not a burden on the institutions, but it is a benefit to UDC across the board. So I think that is what would be the goal, I would think, for 2026, is to identify whether it is through some of this or at a different means and with regular funding where it would sit in the budget regularly, that this committee could help to make that preparation for appropriations every year.
Usually get done, it should go through the USHE board too. I mean, you should be running it up. And let's coordinate an amount.
The request would ultimately come from the Department of Corrections, correct?
It can, I mean, it can come from the Department of Corrections, it could come
We can't
from, I would think the USHE board it could come there and it could just come from Representative Bauer and I, we could do a request too. But it'd be better if we're just really unified on it. And I think it's a good time because we know we've had the problem, we've got this ruling, we're hot, we're cold, we're hot, we're cold. And ultimately, we got the one-time money to hold us off for a minute, but it's a good time to do it.
Correct. And I'm confident in speaking for our executive team that this is a high priority for them.
And he's
Putting in, and I think, I agree with you, going as a unified front versus us piecemeal together, it makes a big difference, so.
It needs to appear in this request, right? Given the time frame of when you.
The session.
Correct.
We've got to have it in the upcoming session.
Yeah,
For sure.
so we'll work
You already
on
submitted your.
establishing a
to the
goal that
governor.
then we can share amongst the different constituents. I am wondering though, something that maybe hasn't been discussed is this is what we're getting. But how do we make sure that it's sustainable long-term? And how do we make sure that as growth happens, that we can continue to go back? So I just want to make sure that we're not just asking for this, but that we're thinking long-term about the options for education for incarcerated individuals and thinking through what is the actual ask that we're talking about. I don't know if it's just to fill this gap or if we want to think
No,
strategically
we want it.
about
We want it to be a little bit bigger, but you'll still have to come back with a building block when you add to it.
Yeah, so if we have for the ongoing, we'll calculate in, what our projection is of obviously the population going up, but not only that, but we also adding more programs in. We don't want to just sit stagnant with what we have. We always want to try adding in more things in different areas. And that's what we've been working on. So I agree.
And Davis Tech, you guys can be helpful. The people that matter on that budget they're gonna be listening to you up in that area.
And President Rush fully supports it, as already said, if it requires his time on the Hill or whatever you need.
Okay. We need him
He's here for
talking, we need him talking to the speaker and the president, so we're not the only two talking about it.
I'm gonna give a quick quick list that might be included in that. We have access advisors, we have coursework, both in person and virtual, that can be expanded both, both expanded at the main facility and Gunnison and for state inmates in jails. So I think that's where I'm feeling, like that in-person and virtual, either downloadable or Skype or whatever it is. I think that's where, those building blocks need to be incorporated, so.
Okay, you can go on to the next one. So yes, this is just continuing on with how we're working with our tablet providers. So our tablet providers, we really have to have a three-prong approach with our tablet providers. Our learning management supports our education, our skills training, includes secure course delivery and academic tracking. So one issue we do have to come over is we don't allow access to straight to the internet. So all of our courses have to be downloaded when the tablets get charged at night through servers and whatnot. And that is just one hurdle we get over, but we work through that that's part of our working with the tablet providers. We say you have to do this part. Next, we need to have reentry that provides rehabilitation, recovery, and employment readiness tools. So I mean, these are things where they can get on and know who to contact about getting medical care on the outside, knowing who to contact about finding housing, finding out what options are available. So we need to have that a part of our tablet. And then just our operations platform. Our prison operations has to function where, I mean, everything from a clothing request to a medical request to just speaking with the prison operations staff and our case manager, our institutional individual service providers. So everything has to run alongside of each other, but those three distinct areas have to be in place. And so we're looking at, does one tablet company fulfill all those needs? We're not finding that. So it might be multiple tablet companies that we have to piecemeal this together, but we have to get this right because the systems can be taken advantage of and used for nefarious things. We're finding out more and more very, very creative things. So move to the next slide. So that was kind of our overall FCC ruling, kind of our funding, how we have to have that funding moving forward. This next part, we're talking about just the collaboration with the Utah Department of Corrections and the Utah Sheriff's Association. So after our last meeting, I've been speaking with Sheriff Chad Jensen from Cache County. I've been at several meetings with the Utah Sheriff's Association, and they are all in support of higher education in their facilities. Obviously there are some limitations. It has to be cost effective. They can't be spending a lot of money to put it into their facility if they're not getting much out of it in return. Their clienteles are very transient, so they only have some in county jails. You might have them come in only for 30 days, 3 months and getting out. So enrolling them into a 6-month course might not be feasible, but for our state offenders, we could look at that. And so we already currently have that with UBTech out in Duchesne County. We have our vocational trade out there, a constructions trade, that is going well. We're looking at adding in new course material and programming out there. I just spoke with Jails, and he's not here from Snow College, but they're connecting with Sanpete County, Sevier County, and Emory County to do a virtual classroom. So we already have the neat board equipment in all of our rural counties, but Snow College actually has equipment they're putting in as well. And they're just looking at the feasibility to work around the security schedules, to work around the current programming schedules that we have at the jails to deliver those. All of the jails and sheriffs are in support of facilitating anybody that wants to go through higher education. They'll work around their schedules. They'll make sure it's secure. They'll help store books that they have. I was speaking with Sheriff Glover, and he has one individual he's self-sponsoring himself to go through college. He has the books delivered. The online university sends them the actual physical books, and they store them for him. They give him a place to do all of his work, educate. They help upload everything. So they're more than willing to facilitate. It takes a larger discussion of if an institution wants to come in, is it feasible? That's where they're at. So currently right now in our county jails, we are housing, and this was pulled as of Monday, it was 1,600 offenders out in our county jails. So last time you asked us to run a report on who is eligible of our state offenders for higher education. So this was ran in June of 2025. At that time, we had just over 1,560 offenders. And of those offenders, 2/3 of them, we could verify that they had a high school diploma, GED or better. So
It's a lot.
it's a big number, yeah. And I will say, so we do run into issues, like one of the issues we run into with housing for offenders out in the county jails. Usually these are the offenders that usually don't have medical issues, they don't have disabilities, they don't have like safety concerns, they're not hard to manage. And so that number is not all the way surprising because they're more of our better behaved offenders and they're self-motivated, therefore they've probably been through high school before they got to us.
Which also means they are, right now, if you're physically at the main prison facility, you have a lot more access to jobs and education. And so that's why I'm talking about virtual. Like if there's that many that really are ready for something and they are state inmates, that should be part of our plan of being able to facilitate that access and partnership and make it feasible, not just for the institution, but for the jails, right? That needs to be part of the plan.
And this is where I really think, where I really appreciate Stone College coming in and just looking at the virtual option, because that's really where I think we can hit a lot, is if we can somehow, get them enrolled, but do it virtually all across the state. We have Department of Corrections was able to secure a federal grant to get this NEAT board equipment. If you don't know what NEAT boards are, please research them. They are pretty cool. It's just basically a huge TV that's a computer monitor that has access to speakers and video, and it's just like you're sitting in an actual classroom. It's pretty.
I'm sorry, one quick question. When you house them in jails, do they keep the same case manager that they came in with, or are they changing case managers every time they get transferred?
So a real important part of being a case manager is having that physical sit down and talk. So if they move physical locations, they are going to change a case manager. However, with our tracking system, and all of our policies, we track specifically where they're at, their case action plan. These case managers upload that. And so getting them across and transferring, we have had issues in the past, but that is why we are always looking to be better. And we feel that we have good communication. They hold weekly, monthly meetings about people that need specific needs, and then we're getting them across the line.
So I bring that up because that relates to access advisors that we have in different institutions. But for inmates, I think only have two right now, two institutions that are really helping to do that. I think that needs to be part of the plan is regardless of where the location of the state inmate is, do we keep them, if once they've been evaluated when they come in of what their potential job is or potential reentry, can we keep that same academic access advisor to continue helping them to register for classes regardless of where their location is? I think that's part of the question. I don't know, that I want Yushi to help answer as we move forward.
Yeah, and I think that as we think through academic access advisors, it would also be limited by the ability to do virtual types of advising and things like that.
So just as we restructured our new division that I talked about on the very first slide, that's what we are setting up for. These so we're changing case managers to individual service providers because we feel the Department of Corrections case management is everybody's job. And we really want to focus on the individual. We don't want to focus on, well, this person came into prison for drugs, so everybody that's coming in for drugs is all going to do the same track. That's not how we should work. We want to focus in on the individual. So our individual service providers will definitely link up and make those virtual connections with, we could facilitate an academic advisor anywhere. So
Okay,
yes,
thank
that
you.
is a possibility. Okay, we can go to the next slide. I've got a lot of slides, so I'll go quick. So please, this is available. Richard has it, it's on here. So please feel free to look through this. You can go to the next one, Richard. Oh, no, sorry, go back. Okay, so I'm going to go over all of the statutes that kind of lay out the higher education for the Department of Corrections and kind of show how we are following those statutes and trying to always be better. So House Bill 194 out of 2022 first talks about just having access to all offenders. So we are really ensuring that all our women's facility is there at USCF, but we also have some county jails that house our female facility. We are working on making sure that there's access of the same academic material and certifications to both men and women. In fact, Davis Tech and I are working on this year, we put into our contract, right now we have culinary arts in the females, we're moving that as well over to the males. And then also our CNC machining, correct, Dan, is moving, we have in the males, we're moving into the females as well. So both areas will have these opportunities. One issue that there are a few issues, but one of them is obviously space limitation and security. So the prison is designed to make a safe environment. And so that's our goal, is to create a safe environment so people can actually be rehabilitated. If they don't feel safe, they're not going to rehabilitate. Part of that is just the layout and design of our buildings. We cannot accommodate everybody in one area, especially if they are not acting correctly, if they have different security levels. We don't mix our male and female populations. However, our female population is a lot smaller, so the actual footprint for female space is quite a bit smaller than our male. So we run into space issues. However, we recently just held a luncheon with our higher education partners out at the prison, and that was one of our main topics, was ensuring the best way to utilize all of our classroom and space more efficiently. We're always looking for new ways to bring new programs down. In Gunnison, our Central Utah Correctional Facility, we're looking at bringing in the automation technology. And if Ensign College was here, we just started up the pathways down in Gunnison Prison as well. So we're looking at new ways to always bring things forward. We keep all of our record tracking in what we call our O-Track, which is offender track. It's an in-house tracking system that we have all of our certifications, graduations, and this is what links to the Board of Pardons, and we give our institutional progress reports. All of this comes from our O-Track. This is where everything is tracked. This gets transferred between each division, each facility. We all use the same, and we update in the same place. And even our higher education partners have limited access to ensure that class rolls are being put in, certificates are being put in, enrollment, everything is being documented in there. You go to the next slide. Program availability and timing. So we really have to make sure that we know what the timing is. It's not as simple. Utah has a very indeterminate sentencing system. So if someone gets sentenced from a 0 to 5, they could serve anywhere from 0 days up to 5 years. And it's really up to the Board of Pardons to determine how long that is. Now, there are guidelines, and they're pretty good about following those guidelines. And so we can have a good estimate of what's going on. However, when they first come into our receiving and orientation, we really have to know where they are education-wise. We don't want to put somebody into a bachelor degree program if if they're only reading at a 3rd grade level. And so these assessments, we talk about it, we have our CASAS assessments that we do on our offenders, and we really gauge where they fall education-wise, and then we get them prepared to get into these higher education. And this goes in line with all of their treatment programs that they're going to be required to do as well from the Board of Pardons or from our clinical team. So we have to line up and make sure they're doing both. And I'll talk about this in another bill that we have, you can go to the next slide, is it talks about doing multiple programs at once. So we want somebody to do a treatment program and be able to do a college program or work at the same time. There is, and I'll go in and talk about that in a minute, but there is one little issue we'll address. But so moving on to House Bill 203. So as far as the department duties, it talks about overseeing and evaluating and having a fidelity of all of our curriculum. So we have our Treatment and Education Review Board. So any of the curriculum that comes in from our higher education partners, it's one, being vetted at the state level, so they're going to be teaching at their campus, but then also it goes through our review board just to make sure that it is sensitive material that's inside of a facility. I'm just gonna use you, Dan, so I apologize. If Dan wants to say, hey, I want to teach a curriculum on lockpicking, we're probably not going to have that inside of the prison. Just stuff like that. I know it's simple, but we just want to verify that everything's coming in. As of right now, we have sex offender treatment program at both prison sites. We just had our first graduation in Gunnison prison site a few months ago. That was the first time we've ever had sex offender program down there. And we currently have it in Sanpete County Jail, San Juan County Jail, and Kane County Jail. And then this bill also talks about our case action plans. So this is really the backbone of how an offender knows how to navigate or what they're going to be looking forward to. And this is what those individual service providers, we put it into policy that they'll sit down every 90 days, at the minimum, every 90 days and go over this case action plan with them and actually make notes in there. So after all their assessments get done, after we go through our receiving and orientation, they start building a case action plan. We do a risk assessment on every offender that comes into our facility. And on that risk assessment, it lists risks anywhere from low, medium, high, and very high and intensive. Anything that is a medium risk or higher has to have a goal assigned to it. So we are going to address every risk that is a medium or higher. Now, we can't address those all at one time because programming has wait lists and there's certain timing, there's evidence that shows that getting them into programming at a certain time has the most benefit for them. And so the individual service provider will sit down and really talk about what they are going to do. If they don't go see the Board of Pardons for the original hearing for 20 years, we're still going to have a case action plan for them. They might not address some of their treatment programs till closer towards the end of 20 years, but we're going to have a case action plan of let's get you educated, let's get you working, address our fines, address restitution, work on family issues. So that's really the backbone of our case action plan. You can go to the next one. I'm trying to be sensitive of time, so I do apologize if I'm rushing through this. So please, if you have any questions. So again, on House Bill 203, it talks about offenders having legal access. We do this in a few different ways. So we actually contract with a law firm that provides attorneys and they will come out, offenders can schedule time to go over any of their court cases they have, or we actually have a law library on our tablets. And so that's another thing we're working with our tablet providers is ensuring that all offenders have access to a law library. This is the same as we have standards for our county jail partners. They have to have the exact same access. So we actually contract with a law firm that will go around to the county jails in person to meet with offenders if requested. As far as the offender's income and finances, so part of this bill was making sure that anybody that is putting on money onto an offender's books, they have a notice of knowing how to access that information so they know what they're putting on. So this is the actual notice that they all see before they put on money and they acknowledge that they've read it and see it there. And I won't read through that. We can go through.
I think that's very helpful because some people from the outside get money and don't know if when they say, I need more for school, I need more for shoes, if it's actually going to that. So anybody who does put in money gets that notification if they do want to look at it.
Exactly. And we just want everyone to have all of the information. Some people can be deceiving even to their own family members. I've dealt with this my whole career. Unfortunately, that's a sad reality. However, we want everyone to be informed of what's going on. We do kind of like a family night where anybody that's new to the system can come in and ask us questions, and their loved one, their son, I had this couple came in and their son told them that they had to put on $300 a month just so he could eat. And so we had to correct him, like, that's not the case. It's probably, it's not accurate information. So we're trying to educate everybody the best way we can. And we want to do that in multiple avenues. So you can go to the next one, Richard. So we built into our contracts this year, we removed all of the promissory notes that the offenders were signing to get into this higher education. What we found out, it was just, these were $50 promissory notes. They were going out to state debt collection, and then the state, I mean, it was like few $1,000s in the last 3 or 4 years that they were actually collecting. Like it was just minimal. And so it was just putting a lot of added pressure on people. So we just felt the best way to do it is remove that. Now, each institution has their different ways of Pell Grants or scholarships that they're trying to help people fund through that. So we're always working through that.
I'll interrupt you, Chief.
Yeah, please.
The promissory notes were actually for 50% of what full tuition was.
Yeah.
With our new contract agreement with the Department of Corrections, we've done away with the promissory notes altogether with the idea that we're gonna implement just a flat $50 registration fee to all incarcerated students.
Thank you for, I mixed up the numbers.
No,
So
you're,
thank you.
you're totally fine.
Yours.
Thinking that that's a manageable amount, that could be paid over multiple months. So that's.
Is that the same as yours and other institutions as well? Do you have a different process?
No, most of our students are accessing Pell. However, with our state appropriation that we receive, we use part of that to put students on state scholarships so that we can help cover the cost of their education. The way that we have structured it is that to have equity and to take advantage of the limited amount of funding that we have is that those who are placed upon that state scholarship after they've written an essay to us and have explained why they want to get into college, we make that assessment, and then they're allowed to use that state scholarship to take one class per semester, whereas someone accessing Pell has the ability to take multiple courses. But that is the way our program functions, and so no one leaves the prison education program owing money to the college or to the state.
So maybe next time we could have just a graph comparing the different institutions, what their policy is. We can compare those financial models.
And that is exactly, and I'll go on to this about our educational correctional administrator I'm currently hiring for. That's going to be a primary role of this, is to understand each individual institution's needs and the way they do it and help those offenders navigate through that. Okay,
Could I ask about the job search? Is that add up? Are you, like, where are you all in the hiring process?
for that correctional administrator. So it just closed late last week. We had 48 people apply. We went through all of the resumes. There were some people that definitely qualified, but maybe not in the right scope of work. And so we are going through those resumes, and we're actually setting up virtual interviews for next week. We're gonna get those virtual interviews, scale that down to about 10 people in person. And then we will have, what I would like to do just to ensure is I'm gonna get down to like 4 or 5 after the in-person, and then I'm gonna spend a whole day out at the prison where they could be working, introduce them to every partner, have kind of a walking interview to see. Some people have never been to a correctional institution, and it's intimidating. I don't wanna hire somebody that says, I can't do this. So I wanna have them come out, look at it, and then it's an appointed position, so it will be up to Executive Director Garcia. So I'll
And
just
it
give
is
them
up to you and them, but I'd say you've got great resources here in those final interviews to just help give some direction.
Thank you for bringing that up, because I was already gonna hit them up about this. Like, that was already my plan, so thank you. I had this exact same idea. So,
They have to work with them, right?
That's
And
what I
ask
was
the right
thinking, yeah.
questions if they can implement it.
well, not only work with them, but get along with them and be able to communicate, and understand the languages going back, right? So that's what, exactly, so be looking for all that, for me reaching out. So, all right, we can go to the next one. That just talks about record sharing.
Right before I move on to the next one, we have Sister and Elder Nelson on the line. They're
Okay.
volunteers. That we provide full tuition through Ensign College for those who qualify.
Perfect, thank you.
Hello, Sister Nelson. Welcome to the conversation.
Hi, thank you so much.
So, and again, just House Bill 203, the technology continuing on. We have some areas that have a ratio of just every offender has one tablet. However, due to housing units, security levels, we do have some that are 1 to 2 and 1 to 3. We are working, we want to have everyone have a 1-to-1, but that doesn't mean they're gonna have it all of the time. There are certain security issues where they can have it when they're out of their cell. There are some people that aren't even allowed to access the tablets just because of their current mental state. We just have to keep working with our clinical teams to get them to that state where they can actually utilize that. And then we're also looking at securing more laptops. I'm looking in currently right now. The church is actually looking at donating, Ensign College is looking at donating some of their older, not old laptops, but used laptops. And we're just working with our technology services to see, all right, how do we get these, wipe them clean and make sure that we keep everything up to date? And so that's what I'm working through right now. So, I mean, we have some amazing people that are doing some amazing things. They want to help out. They want to donate a ton. So we're just figuring out how can we do this safely and securely. And we do know from conversations here, we can't do everything on a tablet. They have to have a keyboard. They have to have an actual bigger screen. And so we're looking at ways for them to use it. We're looking at spaces for them to come in and utilize them all the time. So, all right, you know the next one. So House Bill 278, talking about those mentors or advisors. We are currently in the middle of, I'm part of this, is running a review of all of our jobs and our paid pins that we offer to our offenders. What happens is, I know we moved into a new facility and everyone's like, hey, that's great, grand, wonderful. But it's like moving into a new house. After about a month, you realize stuff doesn't work the way you thought it was, and so you have to kind of readjust. Well, that's what we're doing. We thought these jobs would make sense, but just with movement and the building layout, we've had to readjust. And so we're actually finding that we can reduce. We're not using all the pins that we currently have just because of the way they're laid out. So we can use some of those pins to pay for mentors. And we're actually have a proposal to have paid mentors for the Board of Pardons. So offenders that understand how to read a blue packet, how to just understand the board process, hearing, and that's what they're doing. That they help out with that. And we hold mock board trials, not trial hearings for the offenders. It's a stressful time, and so we're just trying to help out any way we can.
Just by quick question, how many spots would you say your facility, your educational institutions have right now that you could have offenders be mentors, tutors, TAs, just off the top of your head?
We currently employ 6,
And you could have,
easily an additional 6.
okay?
And we have volunteer tutors right now. We are not paid positions. And also, of course, working with Andy, and they are facilitating that service for us as well. But we could, I don't have a number off the top of my head, but I feel that it could be significant. And in fact, if we were to go down this route, it would solve a lot of problems and challenges, including my concern that I've raised before, that we have now students who have become converted to the power of higher education, have made significant changes in their life, and they're still looking at a long time ahead to serve. And what are they going to do? If we can take advantage of those students and keep them on a positive trajectory, it would help them. It would certainly help our students. And so I'd like to, it's one of my biggest concerns, really.
But
to
do you
see
think that would be impactful?
I think it's wonderful. I love the mentors for the Board of Pardons because I remember me getting ready for it, getting that blue packet, and it's just so overwhelming and the emotions and whatnot. So to have somebody sit down, because you're gonna get opinions from every person in the section, right? But to have somebody who that's their thing and they give you that correct information and guidance, that's wonderful. And then the mentors in the programs. I mean, I remember first starting my education journey and I really didn't have that confidence or feel like I was capable and you know, some of the classes were really hard because I hadn't been in school for 30 years almost. So to have somebody who's like, hey, let's sit down and you have that quiet space that's being given to you know, to help you through it, right? Even with Davis Tech, you know, the teachers there are wonderful. My IT teacher was amazing, but my fellow student, Dakota, you know, he was kind of my mentor and I was his, back and forth as we're finishing our IT program together, but having mentors is just, that's such a great asset.
And Andy, you have the highest paying job for tutors, and they're like $12 an hour. Do you have room for more, or what's your capacity with that?
Yep, so we'll be giving a kind of brief update on what we're doing here in just a little bit, but we have 7 pins, we have 6 people hired. We're pretty much at capacity for what we're able to do given current funding.
Okay, all right, sorry.
So no, this is, and right when I first came in here, David and others speaking, and that's really, we want to be able to provide, and we feel we have some capacity in our own division to provide those mentors and exactly help people stay in that higher education that have put in so much time.
And I think some of the question is, do they get paid by UDC? Do we have jobs that could be paid for by USHE? That probably needs to be in our financial model that we discuss.
And we have, Adrian noted that there are two tutors through the facility at CUCF, and Snow pays for 2 additional tutors.
Yeah,
Not
so-
very many.
Yes, and that's why we're doing this evaluation of all of our jobs, and that includes Gunnison. So that's exactly why we want to be able to add in, including everything for the board, everything we feel we have some capacity to add. We're really big in the peer mentor, education mentor, like it really has a huge effect, more than we have ever known. And so we really want to keep using.
And I think when they are education tutors, it also, and get paid for it, it's the value of education that hits home for every inmate.
And they could put that potentially on a resume for
Yeah,
a job.
absolutely.
As well, so it's.
We are actually starting Peer Mentor and Leadership Academy. We're starting with Peer 2. So we have 50 men signed up. Chief and I have worked together. It's a monthly meeting. We will eventually get to the women's side. This is our very first cohort, but there is a monthly topic: accountability, responsibility, conflict resolution, setting and achieving goals. It goes on and on, but it's a year commitment from these individuals, but it's to prepare them for, say, opportunities with David or our institution or Andy, or just within the prison.
Exactly.
In general. So it's a volunteer basis. No one's required to be there. Some might come for the donuts, but they leave a better person. So.
And as important as it is for us, I think, to pursue an opportunity to have paid positions, I wouldn't want us to wait until that transpired to make this move, because the prison is filled with people that would qualify and that want to not just do time, but do something with their time that makes a difference and that is impactful. And I'd like to see it become quite large, so that, you know, we have one tutor that is working with 10 students or something like that in our program. And so that would be a lot of money that potentially we'd have to take in. And I want that to happen, of course, but I don't want to wait and be dependent upon it to implement something.
Maybe let's do, I like grids, right, and comparisons of what each of the institutions have, what they want, what the expansion would be, if it's financial, if it's in-house. Let's just do that comparison so we can give him a summary of the location and institution and positions that we need to collaborate. That'd be awesome.
All right, yeah, okay, and we've already spoken about the legal access, the safe environment, the inmate finances, so we can move on to the next slide. We spoke about the prison telephone surcharge account, educational and career readiness program. So we talked about record sharing, release planning. As part of the reentry division, we need to make sure everyone's successful in reentering society, and reintegrating. And part of that is having a good reentry plan, and that's part of their case action plan. We established this only acceptable standard institutional progress report that we send to the Board of Pardons. And because before it was more or less just 1 or 2 sentences, and we That was unacceptable. We need to actually go into details, and going back to that individual, we need to know about this individual and tell them everything that's going on and really be an advocate if they're doing well. And so that's where that comes in for. You can go to the next one, Richard. So we talked about our CASAS testing. This is our latest data on USCF CASAS testing. In years past, up to 2025, there was just a real lack of attention and focus, and it was mainly because of staffing. We had to put a lot of staff and time in there, but we really did a huge push and got a lot of our assessments done. And we have done a lot of assessments. So about 62% of USCF reads at a 9th to 12th grade level. You can go to the next one. This is Gunnison. And so the higher percentage is at, 63%. It's about the same overall. So we're seeing roughly the same scores at both sites. So this helps us really dial in and say, all right, how do we get people ready for that next level? You go to the next one. Okay, House Bill 248. We talked about the record sharing only acceptable standard. Program timing. We just met with the Board of Pardons. We meet with them every month. And we provided them with what we call as a buffer sheet. What we were seeing is offenders needed to go through a drug treatment program. Some of them are 12-month programs. The Board of Pardons would say, all right, here, we'll give you, we'll let you get out in 12 months. Well, what was happening is it wasn't enough time for them to actually get enrolled. There's a little bit of a wait list, a delay, moving them to the right physical location. And people weren't getting the full treatment, or people were not getting the actual time cut for these programs. So we shared with them saying, we need to get these, if they only have, they're gonna get out in July of 2028, we actually have to get them into the treatment 18 months before that, so we can actually get them moved, get them through the treatment, and they can receive that time cut. And so this has been a big, just educational thing going back and forth between us and the board. Okay, we can go to the next one. So multiple programs at the same time. We love this idea. The problem is offenders and families are taking that as they can do 2 treatment programs at the same time. So we have offenders that are wanting to do drug treatment and sex offender treatment at the exact same time. And just evidence shows that it's actually detrimental to them to do 2 programs at once. And so we're working through that, where I think the intention of this language was making sure they can do a higher education program or certification alongside of their treatment. And in fact, we've been in communication is we lose a lot of people going back and forth, moving around between movement times to treatment and then back to their certification. So we're actually looking at ways to bring the treatment to where they're working. So all they have to do is stop working for 1-2 hours, do their class, and then they compete. And then we're not losing them on movement times. We're not wasting time. And so that's one thing we're looking at. We were recently in Nebraska and their Department of Corrections, and they focused in on this a couple of years ago, and they've had great success. So we're really looking into that and trying to see, again, coming down to space and time and how we can do it. But most of these higher institutions, they're fine letting them go for 1 or 2 hours as long as they don't lose them for half of a day. And so that's what we want to do. Okay, next one. I know I'm waving. So a lot of House Bill 248 was already addressed in those other bills. So I just put in there just as the same as those other ones. So if you just want to refer back to the other bill, you can go to the next slide. So education pathways and job opportunities. So we recently just appointed a new director of, director of strategic, I got it right here, hold on. Director of Strategic Initiatives, and then underneath her is our Workforce Development Coordinator. And she's a correctional administrator. And this is really tying into the new House Bill 412 that we're working on establishing, which identifies the parolees that are out and working and tracking them and really reporting that back to the state. And then these job fairs that we're doing, we had one in 2023 and one in 2024. They were what we like to call learning events because we were learning from both sides. We really had to we found out that just allowing any offender to go was actually taking up time. If they don't get out in 20 years, we'd rather have somebody that's getting out in 1 to 2 years take advantage of that and not make time. So we're working on that. We're working right now on getting another one set up. We had a reentry symposium where we actually had employers come and we educated them on the benefits of hiring parolees. We talked all about the certifications they get, all the instructions they get, and there is a stigma in some people's brains that just you don't hire a felon. But we really talked about that. A lot of employers came and just saw the benefits of this. So we're going to continue working with that. And you go to the next one. Education snapshot. I just reached out to all the institutions. You can see, and everyone can go through this on their own time, but we have a lot of students being involved. We have wait list on most everything. It shows all of the classes that we have. This is just Davis Tech and Snow College. And if you go to the next slide, this is Ensign College, Salt Lake Community College, and University of Utah. And then just our financial literacy. So Richard and I have been meeting regularly for the last few months, and we've been meeting we had Kim Hene come in. She's amazing, by the way. Come in and just really educate us on what the banks are, one, required to do, but also what they can do and what they can offer. And so what we are doing is we have a lot of people that want to offer financial literacy classes, but we don't want to undo any of the work people are doing. So I am creating a set of guidelines stating, hey, if somebody comes in at the beginning, this is where we should start out at and move our way up. It's as simple as understanding what money is and what it means to them. Some people coming into our institution have only dealt with cash, never had a bank account, don't know how to pay bills on an app. We have to start out at the very basics. So coming in and teaching a large class to multiple offenders on how to invest money for retirement is probably not the best way to start out. So that's where these guidelines will come in. I've already got Davis Tech's curriculum. I've got Ensign College is sending me their curriculum. I've got Kim Hene is sending me their curriculum. So I'm gathering all these curriculums to build this guideline out. You can go to the next one.
And that's a pretty big work group that we even have, like Zions Bank does a K-12 program, and the Sister Nelson, your groups in reentry really help with financial lit. So the goal of that is to figure out, can we help streamline the same education, whether they're in preparing to get out or out, so they're hearing the same message rather than 5-10 different ways from lots of different groups and organizations, and also being able to learn how to increase their credibility with banks.
Correct. And yes, and how to.
Can I ask a question about that? And also about what you had said earlier about how you have kind of a training for those who engage with them on the outside as to knowing who is donating and who is giving. I'm not certain that for those of you, I don't know if you know about our transition branches, everyone at the table here, where we work with over 100 men and women weekly that are on parole and have a really low rate of recidivism because of the connection that's being created there. But I don't think that we have enough education on some of these resources for our leaders there that are working with them. And I sent a message like on your job fair, like, is there updated resources, this financial literacy? I'm not certain that our leaders on the outside in this transition branch have the proper training for this. And then, like I said, back to what you spoke to about 30 minutes ago, where I don't know what kind of an app that is, or something where everyone who's giving them money can see the right hand and the left hand.
Did you already meet with Jeff?
Pardon me?
Somebody needs to mute. Somebody meeting with Jeff needs to mute. There we go. We got it. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, did you not hear what I had said?
We caught almost all of it. We just had.
Okay, great. So we may be, because you know how it works in church callings, we change roles here. So I'm sorry if I'm new to the table and I'm asking some questions that have been asked in the past. But I would just, some of these things, I want to make sure that we can have access to this financial literacy, the job things that I put into the chat. And then also, I just caught the hind end of what you had talked about earlier about where everyone who's contributing and giving them money can see. Is that something where you can see all the resources that they're getting so that they're not, so that they're being honest and not dipping into everyone's pot? So those were my 3 areas I was interested in and getting more information. If it's offline, that's great.
Yeah, and I can reach out to you offline, but high level, yes, in order to deposit money, you have to specify which offender this is going to. Now, you can't specify how they're going to spend that money because they are adults and you're putting money into that account. And then, yes, we have a monthly meeting with the church leadership, and we have been discussing this, which includes, now that our community correctional centers are under our purview, we've been working with the outside branches as well to make sure that.
Okay.
So yes, I will speak to you offline and I will fill you in on where we're at on that. So thank
Okay,
you.
so Jack and I are specifically responsible under Elder Clark for the transition. So for the outside branches.
Perfect.
And
Yes,
so we will
he's-
be the point of contact on that. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
That'd be great to coordinate them with our community justice councils, with other reentry groups and or other side academy or whatever it is, to really just have some communication of what's happening and how, what information you're wanting them to collaborate. Their donations or resources or financial literacy to be in line. We can work on that.
And we're already starting to do that. We have them with our reintegration team, Deputy Warden Eric Barker. That's his main goal is to work.
All right, we got a question online from Becky. Becky Brown, jump in and join the conversation.
Oops. Hi, sorry, I'm having trouble with my audio. Can you guys hear me okay? I know that you could hear me when it was off earlier, but I am just also, we have been able to work through legislation last session to open up a restricted account in which we are able to build programming and donations out of that. So if there is ever an opportunity where we want to look at a broader approach to donations or programming, we have the ability to do that as a department, which has not previously existed, specific to our reentry and rehabilitation. So I just thought I would mention that as well. Because I think we do run into limitations in the past where it had to be dedicated to a specific person, whereas maybe we want to think more broadly. So
501c3 or how is
Yeah.
it? Yeah, that's a 501c3, so that's great for the community to be engaged with.
Yep. That's exactly, and that's where if people want to donate to a specific program, they can. If they just want to donate to basic offender education, they can. So it's really cool. I think it'll be a game changer. So we have, like I said, we have a lot of people that want to do a lot of great things, especially here in Utah. It's amazing. So real quick, financial literacy, we're looking at ways to incentivize offenders. Now we do currently have some incentivizing programs, like, for example, you pay off all of your restitution 100%, you could be eligible for a 4-month time cut. If you do well, your behavior's well, you get better privilege levels out of the prison. Things like that. So those have already been established, but we're looking at ways to even improve this. I was speaking with Kim Hene. They have ways of they're trying to quote unquote gamify banking. We're looking at ways in which will help them learn, but also in a fun way. And then if you go through certain things, it gives you more benefits on the tablet. Like, all right, if you do 30 minutes of this learning on banking, we'll give you 1 free movie type thing. We're looking at mandating classes at R&O. Should this be mandated that they learn this when they come in? And then we're also working with our current system for inmate accounting is a system called Cactus. We're setting up a meeting with our banking partners to see if is there a way to set up a savings account where they can put money into it and they can't touch it until they get released, things like that. So.
All right. I'm gonna cut you off a little bit. We gotta keep cranking. How many more slides?
I had 30 minutes and I went over and I apologize.
You were excited about what you had to present, so let's keep moving. Let's actually jump to item number 5 and let's go to Taylor and Richard.
That was a
And
long
then,
slide, by the
hey,
way.
fair warning, I cut him off. Fair warning to our institutions. We are gonna be short on time. So Davis Tech, Salt Lake Community College, Snow, UNA Basin Tech, U of U, Utah Tech. Keep your presentations a little bit short. We are excited to hear what you're doing, but we got to keep them a little bit shorter. I need to leave at 3 o'clock, and we can go over, and Chair Ballard can take over, but I had a call, I got to get up on the hill by 3. So I may leave a little bit early, but let's go.
Okay, great. Let's talk about fair chance to advance the grant. We sent the materials in the email, and we've had some subsequent conversations with Chief Honey from the University of Utah. I know we have Aaron Castro on the line as well from the U. We've heard a lot of interest in this grant and in applying for this grant. The whole idea behind the grant, the overarching goal is to align systems and build career pathways from incarceration to careers. And so JFF is really prioritizing state level agency-wide work in this. And in fact, that's mandatory. They're requiring mandatory participation of higher ed, corrections, and workforce. And basically throughout the grant process, there's different phases, but each state will create a state action network. We think this is something that definitely relates to the work that we're doing in Higher Education and Corrections Council. And so we wanted to gauge folks' interest in applying to this grant from a state perspective and understand if more institutions are interested in collaborating on that. Aaron, I'll turn the time over to you. I know we've had conversations with you, and you've also met with Chief Honey. Based on an email this morning, I got the impression that maybe the U is interested in applying alone, not on behalf of the state, or can you explain kind of where you all are thinking with this?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Hi, everybody. I am home with a sick toddler, so you might hear that in a second. The center at the University of Utah, I've been asked to be an evaluator for this grant. And so it's a conflict of interest for us to submit the grant. I'm still super supportive of the state moving forward, and we can write a letter of support that just discloses the conflict of interest. But our previous conversations, we were ready to kind of take the lead in a collaborative proposal, and we're not going to be able to do that anymore.
Thanks, Aaron. That speaks volumes to the work that you all are doing and the trust that JFF has put in you to be an evaluator for the process. I think that we have something special going in Utah, so I'd love to see us participate in this. If there are institutions who are interested, I want to say we've already met internally with our ACHI chief economist, who also has aligned to UDRC, which houses employment wage data in partnership with DWS. And so we feel like that's very strong. When she read through the request for proposal, she was like, absolutely, we could do this. We could participate. We're really interested in this. I think we would want to make sure that we could have DWS support in this as well. So if you could link us to whoever might be best to make that decision. And then if institutions are interested in participating in this, I think what we need to do is get together a meeting relatively quickly with all the players. The grant application is due in October. We've already gone ahead and submitted an application for intent because that was due yesterday. So we went ahead and did that. It didn't mean that we had to apply. So if you all read through it and you're like, no way, we're not doing this, that's okay. We can make that decision today. But if you are interested, I think we need to get moving on this relatively quickly. I think it could be a huge win for our state, a huge win for our incarcerated students and for our workforce and economy. So are there thoughts around the room? Chief Honey, I know we've talked with you about it, but how are you all feeling about participation?
No, and Becky, please jump in if you have any thoughts, but yeah, we definitely want to be a part of this, want to know how we can help. And I think going to your spot, just showing that Erin is being an evaluator, she does an amazing job. So congratulations on that. Becky, what are your thoughts on this?
I mean, I've met with the team and also with our UCI team and others. I think we're well positioned to really bring this work forward and in a market where maybe outcomes aren't currently happening, especially with our data. So we, as a department, we are very excited to partner on this moving forward.
Helen, from a DWS perspective, you may have not had time to read it or move it up a chain or something, but can you tell us more about what you might be thinking about this?
I think it's a great opportunity to access funding that we may not be able to utilize as part of like WIOA or TANF or, that type of funding streams. I would love to run it up past my director and person over program and training funding, who does a lot of our requests and that type of thing, but they're both out this week. So I will have an opportunity to speak to them on Tuesday. I know you're kind of in a hurry to kind of get information back, but they are both out of the office, so.
Okay, so I think what we can do is go ahead and get a meeting on the books for next week. We don't need to decide calendars here. Richard will reach out and coordinate that meeting, and maybe you could, if you have access to their calendars, answer on behalf of when they might be available.
Yeah.
That way, if they're supported, we can move forward. Are there any other thoughts or comments from other institutions,
We would
Dan?
love the opportunity to
Okay.
participate as well. We've held several administrative meetings on, we quickly realized it was too big of a lift for our institution
Yeah.
alone. So, but if we could participate,
Wonderful.
We're the same way,
Okay,
ready to go.
great. Do you have a comment from Salt Lake Community College on it yet? Okay, perfect. Who am I missing? Snow.
Snow College, Jay.
Jay's on. He was on.
Oh, Adrian, they may.
Adrian?
We'll coordinate with you
Okay.
all. Oh. we can-
Adrian's not there. I can talk.
Are
you
Go
here,
ahead, Mike.
Adrian?
Yeah, I am.
Okay, Adrian, take it away.
Looking at everything that we're doing, honestly, we were able to jump up to 80 this semester. We're looking at to go to 120 beginning of next year. We will have our first graduate on the inside, well, first two graduates on the inside at the end of this semester. And one additional that rolled out is finishing one class online that will also graduate at the end of the semester.
Awesome. And Adrian, I'm just gonna interrupt you here. We're not quite to the reports yet. I know we have a lot of things going on today, so.
I'm sorry, my audio
Great, that was awesome.
recorded.
We'll touch base with Snow about the availability to invest in applying to the grant.
The only item that I want to add though is to make sure that we do get the right players in those meetings, which mainly data folks. So that's a big component of this grant, which be data, access to data and that commitment. Not only will need letters, formal letters, we'll also need a letter from the governor and your support as well. So do we have your support?
Yes. Okay, sounds good. So we'll
Thank you.
reach out to you. I'll coordinate a quick meeting for next week. Aaron, again, congratulations. We're so excited for you. Do you have other things to say about the grant now as an official evaluator? What do you want to tell us about it?
What should we know?
Well, I would just say the focus on data and data systems alignment is huge, and that's going to be a major criterion for evaluating whether or not a state can accomplish what they're trying to accomplish in the grant period. And so I would just echo what Richard said, that the getting the data folks to align workforce, corrections, and post-secondary is gonna, I think, be key to be a solid contender here.
Awesome. Okay, thank you.
Thank
Look
you.
for an email and an invite to participate in a meeting next week so that we can get our ducks in a row for an October submission. Rich, I said October, that's so far, and Richard the other day was like, no, it was not. Stop saying it.
All right, I'm gonna keep this moving
Yes,
forward.
please do.
I'm gonna go to Andy's been patient. He's excited to tell us about tutoring and then tutorship.
I think Richard's gonna throw up a PowerPoint for me. I will be quick and to the point, just have a couple of slides. We've been piloting, as we mentioned here previously, the one-stop shop student center in Dell, the women's facility. This has been a long process in the planning. We began thinking about this back in January 2024 with the previous education director at the prison. He reached out asking about literacy support for folks on the compound. We kind of strategized with students in our bachelor's degree program and with others, kind of learned from different programs and started a student center. So if you can go to the next slide. So this is going to be documenting the first 5 minutes or so. It's just what we've done in the first 6 months. So we've reached through the student center more than 200 individuals which represents about 45% of the population in Dell. And we've done that through individual tutoring hours at the student center, as well as in-class support with the high school and Salt Lake Community College classes, where education advocates, those are the incarcerated folks who we are paying, will sit in on the high school classes. And I think to today, maybe 2 Salt Lake Community College classes that have been identified as being kind of challenging for folks inside. We've had 121 appointments, 121 individuals took part in 669 appointments. And the idea of the student center is for anyone who is interested in education, that they can come to that one spot to receive tutoring, peer mentoring, the kinds of, some folks have done kind of thinking about parole. So I would love to learn more about the work that you all are doing. Chief Honey, if we go to the next slide. This is just kind of document, it's tiny, sorry, the different areas of interest that folks have been coming to the student center for, from fine arts and math, that's mostly in the high school, to ESL work and health. Some people come just for study skills and they're interested in getting into college, or they've started and realized they don't know how to be successful in a college level class. We have weekly professional development meetings with the 6 education advocates. We brought in the Utah Reading Clinic. We have student success coaches providing additional trainings. We have faculty members who come in. It was a really labor intensive job. It was 6 months of training to become an education advocate, and then ongoing training and support every week. We meet for 2 hours in addition to the student center hours to discuss what's happening, what kind of resources and materials are needed, what are folks coming into the center for, where do you feel like you are prepared to be an education advocate, and where are you lacking? And then we have been working throughout the U to get those resources inside. Really glad to see that more than half of the people who have come to the center, almost half the people who have come to the center, have been there 3 or more times. So this is suggesting that folks inside are seeing this as something that is beneficial to them. And then with the high turnover rate in the women's side in particular, a number of these one-time visits were right before people were going to be out, and they're just looking for resources, thoughts on where they might go, in addition to the other programming that they've already had at the prison. You can go to the next slide. So the chart on the left is just showing the reach of the program. These are representing the different appointments. So 88 appointments for high school, 70 for SLIC, 65 for UPEP, and then Venture, Life Skills, Defy, Yoga, Davis Tech. There's a lot of, the needs are so diverse. The goal was to create one place where folks can come to try to attend to as many of those needs as possible. The chart on the right, which I realize also very difficult to see, I'm happy to share this out if folks want to see it, are representing the volunteer work in addition to the student center hours. So the 6 advocates total in the first 6 months have volunteered in 453 hours of additional work, either back in the living units or in classrooms, or they've done some workshops as well in health and in math. Tish is one of our advocates, and she's been sitting in the high school classes and is realizing kind of patterns of where folks are struggling, and created some workshop series just in addition to her hours to help people pass the math classes so that they can earn their degrees, their high school degrees. Next slide is just kind of thinking about what we do in addition to the in-class work, with an emphasis on arts enrichment, thinking about people get excited about learning in different ways. And we kind of recognize that not everyone is going to be excited by kind of doing math homework on a whiteboard. But if we can get folks excited about education broadly and kind of do that through the arts, you can kind of hook them into thinking about different forms of education. So we partnered with Sundance Institute and Cool Hand Series and screened a number of films where we brought in the artists for films Judas and the Black Messiah, Mr. Nobody Against Putin, Sing Sing, and most recently Blind Spotting, where the artists came out. These are challenging films, and they require conversation afterwards about them. So we brought in some of the artists and had conversations about the filmmaking process. In October, we're hoping to bring in the director of possibly Sing Sing to come in and record a film scene written by someone. We do writing workshops after these screenings. So it's kind of, there's a lot of moving parts in this kind of peer mentoring, peer tutoring, education advocate work that we're doing. But what we're hoping to do ultimately is help change the culture to one where people are thinking about post-secondary education. They are excited about learning and they have different avenues to be successful, whether it's through Davis Tech, Salt Lake Community College, or our program. Finally, and then this was the actual question I was asked, was about scalability. And I think there's a number of things that we need to consider. Richard, if you can go to the last slide, please, thank you. Unless it didn't, okay, there it is. So thinking about scalability, we've seen in the first 6 months that there is high demand. As I mentioned, nearly half the people in Dell have participated in some form with the Student Center. And we need to consider that to do this well is a lot of work. It's labor intensive with the ongoing training, mentoring, as well as compensation. Currently, compensation is happening through a grant. Happy to say that we've been asked to renew this grant for another 3 years. So we have kind of funding in place to continue this program on the women's side. So that's in place. And kind of we've had an opportunity to kind of share this through different national conferences. We have a national funder who is interested in wanting to provide us funding to put this model in prisons across the country, specifically in women's prisons. And while we're excited to do that, we want to just make sure that we are, marshaling our limited resources well in kind of supporting, not just work around the country, but also here in Utah. We have questions about scalability in terms of adaptation. So we are feeling pretty confident that we know how to do this well on the women's side. I imagine we could learn how to do it well on the men's side, but there are different challenges, concerns. The cultures are distinct in the different units. And so there would be kind of a learning curve on how to implement this. It won't map on exactly the same way on the men's side, which isn't to say it can't be done. It just, there needs to be some thought into how to do it well. And then questions about scalability in terms of our staff. We can't expand beyond what we're currently doing given our current funding, even with our renewal of one grant. And this second grant that I mentioned to you would be specifically to help other programs across the country to launch something similar, but so it wouldn't go back into kind of the work that we could do on the men's side, for example. And then just kind of broadly speaking, thinking about sustainability, a lot of hours have went into this. We're trying to figure out ways that the University of Utah can potentially offer credentials to education advocates. We just want to make sure that we're doing the work well and with integrity. And I do think that compensation is a key part of this. Our advocates spend a ton of time outside of just the student center hours learning how to teach. Many of them had full-time jobs in the sewing factory, the juice plant when it was there, and being able to hire them and kind of they see themselves in their full-time jobs as being education advocates through the University of Utah. And that has, I think, helped with the kind of feeling of transformational growth that the project has been able to achieve in this limited amount of time.
Awesome. Any questions before we move on? That's incredible. Okay, Helen, you've been patient.
Awesome. I
Been quiet,
probably won't
been
take all
patient.
the 15 minutes that was allotted. I don't really have a lot to share. I know Representative Ballard, you had some questions about job fairs and that kind of thing. We would love to be able to coordinate. We currently and still have a worker that does go out to the prison on release days and tries to provide as much information as possible and regularly meets with a lot of those that have been released. He's also been assigned or been referred clients from a local judge. I'm not sure who that is. Our local service area director for the Salt Lake area would like some information regarding the job fairs, because across the state, there's opportunities for us to contact employers that would be interested in hiring and having that opportunity to participate in some of these events. We have workforce development specialists throughout the state that work specifically with employers and coordinate that opportunity. And we've also met briefly with the reintegration specialists that you guys have, but we haven't been able to connect with them. So I don't know afterwards if I can connect with you and maybe get some more information on how we can coordinate those fairs.
Oh, yeah, we're gonna become best friends.
Oh, yeah, that's perfect. That's what I was hoping for.
I'll write that
So-
down for the
Like a
goals.
chief buddy.
Yes, I will
Wow.
love that.
He's always more fun after 2 hours,
Oh, yeah.
clearly.
And then, as for like the pathways and what appropriate programs are, I think it just depends on the economic service area, because what we might see as being a job that's high in demand here, and, you know, some of the local colleges and higher education might have that information on what type of jobs employers are looking for in the area, could be very different from Davis County to Salt Lake County down in our mountain lands area, even in some of our more rural areas. I can speak to Davis and know that aerospace and manufacturing, as well as the Bear River area, manufacturing is something that's very high. We look for people with like CNC machining, that kind of thing experience. And Dan, you could probably speak to that as well, because I know you guys have access to a lot of that economic information that gets shared. So, I mean, I don't want to overstep and speak to what some of the schools might see as well. I know the data is online on our website, and we might be able to kind of facilitate that and show. I could have one of our economic service area representatives, the local economists, kind of speak to some of that information, if that would be helpful at one of our future meetings, and that way you guys can access that, but you probably are already familiar with where to find that information on our website. And then as for the online job listings, we have fully facilitated and integrated that piece that was required of us. As for employers and ensuring that they're doing that, all we can do is say, hey, here's the information if you have positions, but we really can't force employers to post those. We do have other programs where they can go online and sign up for this program, which would basically interact with our DWS website so that jobs would post automatically, but there's just a box that they can check online when they're posting their jobs with us. And so that's kind of where the extent of what we can do in regards to that. We really can't force an employer to.
So I have a recommendation, I think, in hearing this, I think as you said, Chief Mortensen is overseeing the community side of the reentry. I would recommend strongly that we have Chief Mortensen bring the group together, because we've already had Sister Nielsen say, we want to know where those jobs are.
Right.
And I've also reached out to the Salt Lake Chamber, Mary Catherine Perry, who would like to help advocate for the other chambers to do the same, because I think with that legislative requirement is not just we're gonna have this website, but it needs to have some kind of engagement. Otherwise, the website doesn't do anything if nobody knows that it exists and nobody's adding jobs and whatever. I think it really works with Chief Mortensen and what they're doing in aligning the groups on the outside, not just DWS, but that are trying to help these individuals to get the jobs, because corrections has been charged through another piece of legislation to help them apply for the job 60 days before they leave. And so I think for me, it's really being able to figure out the following, and this is where I think the scope of this board, this council is is us identifying the pathways, educational pathways that we have. How does it align with the job needs in our state? How does that align with the county location by which they're going to be re-entering into? And how can the chambers help fill those spaces and answer those questions, not just about the job needs, but the postings, right? So I think that whole alignment is something that I can talk to Commissioner Adams about to really figure out how can this help. But I think Chief Mortensen is a key to figuring out how do we get all those people together and for us to engage the chambers in being able, and if that's the best website, that's what a colleague put into statute. If that's the best place for you to be able to go to, for other organizations to know, and Sister Nelson to know, hey, this is really our central hub, then let's get the community receiving centers and the volunteer groups and the reentry groups to actually know that it's there and that it exists. And then ultimately, again, the chambers letting their employers know that there's a federal fund to give them a tax, I think it's a tax credit for hiring them, right? So I think it's that connectivity that we can figure out how to do that. But I think Chief Mortensen is the key to being able to bring that collaborative effort together. I'm happy to help to get the chambers there or whatever you want for
Well,
that.
yeah, we'll get everyone in the same room. I'm already sending you an email right now.
Fantastic.
Introducing everybody. So just thank you so much.
Great, thank you.
Yeah. I really appreciate that too, because I hear like Missy Wilson is working, for the other side, working with the Clyde companies, trying to get them to hire. I hear all these things everywhere, but like, where is this central location? And also we're just seeing that they're not outfitted to apply for these jobs. Oftentimes that we're trying to get them to disclose their past history ahead of time so they don't waste their time in all these interview processes, so they can get employed faster and not go down a rabbit hole just to get rejected and then have to start all over again. So there's a lot of training, I think, that also needs to go along with that on the outside that could be very helpful.
Because there are two different kinds of jobs. One of them that has to have that disclosure and others that don't care, right? So if they don't care, they both should be on there, whether they're asking for that disclosure or not.
And we also offer bonding as well. So I mean, there's other opportunities. There's the work opportunity tax credit, there's bonding that's available. So there's a lot of different opportunities that we have, and being able to partner with a lot of employers out there. It's just getting the information.
Thank you.
Love having it all in one place. That's fabulous.
All right, let's keep moving forward. Last but definitely not least, institutions. We're gonna start with Davis Tech, and I do apologize. I need to run up to the hill. I didn't think I needed to, but I do need to, so. You're in charge. You've already been there, done that.
Okay.
Did you guys,
Used to present
did your caucus already meet?
No, 3 o'clock today, so I do have.
She's gotta leave early too, because we're doing that as well.
Ours is just a phone call.
Oh,
Yeah, we're too many of us. Okay.
It's okay, we're gonna turn everything to Dan Power,
Yeah. I'm actually gonna do a quick thing. Utah Tech, you're actually here, so Nate, I'm gonna actually let you go first. Again, all of us have brevity, but go ahead and go first, then we'll go over to Davis.
Thank you, Representative Ballard. If I handed out this little sheet of paper, it's just an update on what we're doing. I know we're not on the council, but there's a lot of overlap, and some of our students move into the adult system afterwards. So I just got back from El Salvador this morning, and I was working with Catholic University there on my own dime to develop an incarcerated youth program in El Salvador in their intermediate prisons, which are always changing. Anyway, that being said, this is totally worth the money spent on it. To put in some context, California set aside $15 million to have juvenile justice higher education implemented in their state in 2022 and 2021, and then ongoing $10 million. And I can tell you, with our current funding of $300,000 ongoing, we're outperforming California in raw numbers, not just percentages. So we have more students in higher education, they perform better. I know this because my colleagues at the University of Southern California, which is why I was in El Salvador, have pointed this out, and they're like, wow, this is incredible.
That being said, I don't know if you guys would be open to this, but we've grown from a small number of students, which is about 37 per semester, to now over 60 per semester. And with that change, even though the WPU of our students is almost precisely the same as K through 12 students, and by the way, our age group falls under the mandatory K through 12 care because the vast majority of our students are under 22. We're not really spending any more money for college education than we would be if they were in high school. It's very similar across the state. It represents less than 5% of the total expenditures in the juvenile justice system for higher education. Okay, that being said, now that we're at 11 facilities and we are using Zoom. So the proposal for the county jails to rely on something like Zoom is a really good idea. It works well for us. And so I was just wondering if you guys would at least consider, when we go to the state legislature and we say, hey, we've gone from 37 a semester now to over 60. We do need a little bit of money a little bit extra and ongoing in order for us to continue to function, if that wouldn't be stepping on toes because we want to work with you. So I'm just throwing that out there. We'll have our first bachelor's degree. Actually, a kid in juvenile justice will get his bachelor's degree this December. And I'll stop there. Thank you.
You know, I think that was great, and I think working with Yushi to coordinate all that, I just want to say that all of us here are saying thank you for helping them not to get to this circumstance that the rest of us are trying to manage.
Yeah.
That's really, when you talk about ROI, that's where it's at, to change a life, right? And change the trajectory of those youth. So thank you so much for your work in that.
Thank you. You made it into the dissertation at USC, by the way.
Oh,
You're like
I
on
need a
page
copy of
25.
that then. Why is that? I don't even, I did, like, so
It's a description of people, movers and shakers in the state of Utah who are supporting early investment in college education for incarcerated youth. And yeah, you're at least on one of the pages, maybe a footnote too, so.
Just send me a screenshot.
Okay.
I
Yeah, you don't
have
have to
to
read the
tell
whole
my
thing.
husband really appreciate me.
My parents already made the whole thing.
That's really nice to hear that. Thank you so much. Okay, especially with the institutions, I think for me, we always want to hear like completion and such, but I really want to go to like, what are the barriers? Because that's really our action item as we work towards our next council meeting. So Dan, you're up.
All we're talking is barriers.
No, well, you can share whatever you
Oh,
want, but I
okay.
want to make sure that the
Absolutely.
barriers are what we're discussing, because whether they're common
We
themes
currently
or
have
not.
160 active enrollments, which puts all of our programs at capacity with waiting lists. So far this fiscal year, which just started July 1, we've already graduated 25 this year. We piloted an academic development program which offered digital literacy, reading and math in the Dell units. With our new contract, we're going to be able to expand that service also to the mirror units as well. Adding financial literacy, typing, job seeking skills to what we offer. We already spoke a little bit about what we're offering in Bear 2 with Peer Mentor program. Last fiscal year, we graduated 138. And the other big thing that we're super excited about is we are actually going to begin offering services in Antelope, which is men's maximum security, in October.
Awesome.
Now these will be manufacturing and self-development. We'll have a course catalog of about 16 classes that they'll have available that they will take online. In terms of barriers, we've discussed it at length with the additional screening processes that have been implemented in some of our areas. I think Chief Honey and I are in a good place with that, so I don't expect that to really be an issue much longer. So we're doing well there.
Any other barriers?
We could use more space, but I think everybody could, right, Andy?
Well, I think that's why we bring them up, right? I mean, if there's anything we want to have as goals, whether it's being able to find another way to have that space or have the funding help with another space, I don't know, right? That's why that has to be part of the growth that we're considering.
I will say that we're working with Chief Honey as well to maybe look at offering courses in the evening, programs in the evening to try to alleviate some of the waiting lists and things like that. But I don't want to take up any more time. So, oh, and we do have a fair chance hiring guide that we worked with the Salt Lake Chamber on last last year. If anyone's interested, we'd be happy to push that out to everyone as well, that's available for employers and those seeking employment. So.
Awesome. All right, we have, David,
Salt Lake Community College.
Salt Lake Community College.
Great. Oh, thank you. I love being here and hearing all of the wonderful things that everyone's doing. It's such a great, thank you for everything that everyone is accomplishing. Significant. Let's see, I just really quickly, our summer 2024 enrollment was at 200 students. In fall 2024, we were at 248. Spring 2025, we dropped to 153. And this semester right now, we're at about 140 students. And we've determined that as based upon our current funding and structure model, that's probably more students than we can accommodate as it stands. We've had 77 graduates with associate degrees up to this point in our program's history, which is wonderful and exciting. What I guess what I in terms of what I hope will happen, I would like to see, well, first of all, I'm very excited because our institution, in response to the mandate from the legislature, has determined and suggested, I guess, that the prison education program should receive part of that reallocation. So it's in the final stages of approval, and we are confident that that will go through and that our program will have access to, you know, a good $200,000 a year more than we have had annually. With that funding, when that comes through, it is my intent to first hire a reintegration coordinator, which has been a deficit and need in our program up to this point. And then I want to also be able to expand and offer state scholarships to more students with that reallocation that's going to happen. So, with that in mind, and the fact, as I've discussed in previous meetings, I'd like to see our program donate the laptops that we have inside the prison to UDC and turn over the technology completely over UDC as their responsibility in accordance, Representative Ballard, with some of the legislation that we've worked on and has been successfully passed. A barrier is still that laptop access. We need more computer technology and access for students inside the prison. However, since we're going to hand that over to UDC and with the reallocation money that we're going to receive in a program, as it stands right now, I feel like we'll be in very good shape in terms of sustainability and moving forward to have success like we have had in the past. However, I would like to see SLCC expand and offer online courses in the county jails, taking advantage of our ability to access Pell and extend that, perhaps as we've discussed, into Summit County and into Willa County, establishing those two jails as hubs for SLCC education. And if we go in that direction, I don't have a budget currently set up for what we would need, but we would need additional funding to be able to provide that and facilitate that in terms of staffing need and also instructor salary. So as it stands right now, I think we're looking really good. Sustainability is quite high, and we are going to continue to be successful. However, for growth into those areas that we would like to help facilitate, we'll need to take a look at that and come up with an amount that would be reasonable that we could add perhaps to our state appropriation to facilitate that educational access as well.
I like the word you used, actually, growth. And I think maybe sometimes we have barriers, but I think really what this council has worked on is growth opportunities. And so I think moving forward, that's what we want. I think what I want to see with all of the reports from the institutions from here on out with our councils, to really be able to see what's the growth, completion, And I know in the past, we've talked about challenges with lockdowns or with housing or whatever. And are those the reasons, or is it computers, or is it, I mean, I think being more specific so we know how to talk about what we need moving forward. But I think the growth opportunities is really, really necessary, like even within the next week or two for you to report to you, all of you to report to Yushi, so that we know how to put together this proposal for the legislature as a separate funding, right? If we don't know where we're headed, we're only asking for where we are. And so I think being able to identify the opportunities virtually, in person, pathways, jobs, all those things need to be part of that conversation. So thank you so much. All right, Snow College. You started.
Thank you for this. I am sorry about earlier, my audio, I had to reset everything. I would have to echo David's comment about the laptops as being a challenge. The offenders really do appreciate what that gives them. But I mean, today I had to work through a clearance to get one out because it lost its licensure to Microsoft. So that laptop has to come out, come back to us. We have to re-engage it, then send it back in. And the delay, the cost, and I don't know how that would work in the long run, because I know that would involve somebody at the prison that could handle that and the additional cost. So I mean, it would be an issue of money. Currently, we are, Chief Honey mentioned that we were looking at going back to the jails. This semester, we are actually going back into Sanpete, Juab, and Emory County with one class to work out really and truthfully long-term feasibility and start looking at the second chance Pell in those areas. Instead of Zoom, we're actually leveraging the WebEx technology that we use for IVC. We have quite a few classrooms on campus that are built out with that. The challenge there, the need board systems are great, but it's getting the training to those sites to help the people that work at those jails get linked in with those and get called in. UEN has been working with us. They were very happy to work with us to set up some of the automatic call systems. But the problem is that allows the jails to see each other, and they don't like us to do that. So we're needing to look at training at the sites, at the facilities, to make sure that we are following best practices there. They're great systems. It's just coming down to a little bit of money, a little bit of training.
Great, we've actually written that down for part of our plan moving forward for virtual education, to have in that those guidelines and preparation. So thank you so much. Let's see, UB Tech.
Yeah, so we have one program at the Duchesne County Jail. It's our construction program. We had awarded 31 certificates last year. Currently have 11 students in the program currently, with several that help out as teacher aides and help in that program. So I think about 14 involved in that right now. We have a wonderful partnership with the Uinta Basin Association of Governments, and actually complete a home and then move that on site and build it on location. And so we just completed a home in Habiona this year and just recently put it on site and have it up and completed and running. Our only barrier currently is just the movement of incarcerated individuals that Chief mentioned earlier. We get them in and they're there, and then they're relocated and moved around a little bit. We would love to start and expand and have a culinary program. I think we've got the opportunity for culinary there as well. Industry in the basin is also kind of requesting heavy machinery and heavy equipment operators. I think with the railway coming through, there'll be a high need for that. And so we're looking currently at some funding sources for some simulators that would help with heavy machinery. But a really good program, a lot of success that comes out of that small program there at the Duchesne County Jail.
So I think one of the opportunities we have, for example, when you're talking about the heavy machinery equipment, if there are some inmates identified to say, you know what, I would love to live there, I would love that job, that at what point they were completed with things at other facilities, that they could be transferred to you and reentry at the same
Absolutely,
place, right? So
absolutely.
I'm not sure how to communicate that. I think that's our goal with everything that we're doing as you're identifying. I think knowing, do you care where you reenter? Do you have a family that you're trying to reenter to? Or, you know, is it open and how can we align that? Sometimes they know it when they come in and sometimes it changes and sometimes it's the same.
Exactly.
But I think it's what we want to be able to try to help with the educational pathways and housing to align that, you know, and have that be successful for the jail, but also for the reentry of the individual.
So we already have that established where we look to identify people if they've paroled into Uintah County or Washington County. We try to get them out to the jail before so they could actually parole right from the jail. Now adding in this educational piece, that would be awesome if we could time it to where they get done and then get, you know, even look for a job while we're out there. That's the ultimate goal and that's what we'll work towards. But we already have that process in place. So that's a big lift.
So it may be including in the access advisors and the case managers, some kind of alignment with that would help to flag or to identify timing and location. You know, we can keep working on that and facilitate that for you.
Exactly.
So, awesome. Andy, do you want to add anything else with the University of Utah?
Sure. So the bachelor's degree program is going strong. We just celebrated the first year. We have 100% retention rate outside of 2 folks who were released. Have 13 people currently enrolled in it. We will have our first graduation in less than 2 years. Thanks to the folks having earned the Salt Lake Community College associate's degrees. All of our students have associate's degrees from SLIC. We have tomorrow, we're starting a new project with Weber State University, where they will be offering a class in the fall and spring semesters. They'll help get to the general education credits. About a third of those, I think it's 8 students will be first-time college students. Some of them still enrolled in high school, so they'll be able to earn college credits at the same time. And I'm thinking about this idea of the student center being able to support folks in all parts of their educational journeys. We are close to finishing our reentry guide for the state. That'll be out in the first quarter of next year. It'll be a statewide guide that hopefully we can provide digital copies to everyone on their tablets, as well as have some printed out for community partners. I'm happy to share that before we print them with UDC. We'd like their to look over it and provide any suggestions on how we may be able to improve it. We did this in Florida my wife and I did this in Florida before we moved out here. So it's based on the Education Justice Project's reentry guide, which is an award-winning program in Illinois. So have a couple of things rolling there, and then we're launching a national center on higher education and prison research at the U in the coming months, thanks to grant funding. I will note that a lot of our time and energy is spent on kind of grant writing, individual donors. We've fundraised all of the needed costs for tuition through individual donors and grant writing. We're excited about where we're working. I would say that that's kind of one place that is a barrier, is that our program is kind of all funded through grants and individual donors. And if we were to have an opportunity to expand the student center model, which I think is a solid one, that hopefully we could find state funding in the future to support that in other parts of the prison, if that were something that was of interest to UDC or other folks.
Well, I think what we'll do is we'll prepare a one-page sheet comparison of where everybody's getting their funding differently, to really help share some of these ideas and see how we use that as a request to the legislature as well. So congratulations on that.
And if I could just say this really quickly, I really think that in our upcoming push for more funding, that should be a top priority so that the U could expand and offer those services into the men's facility. And on top of that, an ability for UDC to take over the laptops. And it's a major undertaking, as we have learned, to facilitate those, to keep them up and running, to service them, it's a major undertaking. So UDC will need someone to hire or maybe a couple individuals too. So in my thought, I think those are the two things that we should really push for in our funding request.
Fantastic. Okay, we have Utah Tech.
I covered everything.
Oh, you did. Okay. Sister Nelson, would you like to give a summary of Ensign College? You're on mute still. You're still on mute.
Thank you so much. Yeah. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Great. And thank you to all of you for the great work that you're doing. We're so grateful to be a part of this with you. As far as Ensign College, for those of you who don't know, this is taking the place of the BYU Pathway Program because it's a better fit for us to be able to long-term plans for them to have advanced degrees. So Ensign College, our first cohort is starting in September, and we have 280 individuals enrolled. Ensign College will have a professional foundations class path at first with life skills, professional skills, university skills. It will move on to a skills certificate, beginning programs such as project management, small business and entrepreneurship, and then moving on to future paths where students can transfer to a program offering advanced degrees. It's a 7-week term that runs year round. Certificate programs are designed to be completed in 12 to 18 months. Students in this program receive 100% scholarship that fully funds their program, and this is in alignment with them working with their branch presidents there, those that are attending and come through an interview process. This is an online program. They will not attend class with an instructor. It's all virtual, and they communicate with their instructors daily. The professional foundation students, though, they attend a peer-led hour-long face-to-face gathering every week with cohort mentors. And so they'll have 2 tracks, one starting in September, one in February. And we're very excited about this. And we've been careful to make sure we're trying really hard to screen them because we don't want to have a high failure rate on this. And so we've worked really hard to try and screen as best we can so that we can have the participants have success, and also so that the program can continue with some good statistics is our hope.
Great. I have 2 thoughts with that. One of them is we don't have time today, but it's interesting to get an update with UDC of how that virtual option works with the weekly face-to-face and then the online. And if that's a model of how we can expand some of these other courses or different as we're talking about online virtual options. So I'd like to do 2 things as we close. One of them is I would like, Becky, I know this is your first meeting, but just summarize kind of what you're hearing, what this experience is, and what your hope would be. And then I'm going to give some to-do for our next meetings coming up.
Well, there's a lot of pieces moving in the background. You know, I would just go to class and work hard and whatnot, but I had no idea all that goes into facilitating the education at the prison. So thank you, everybody, for what you're doing. And then, you know, helping us to be successful as we leave. But yeah, there's a lot of things. I kind of took some notes. I had questions like Chief Honey, you talked about, you have a list of employers that are felon friendly and whatnot, right? Is that what you said?
Yeah, that we invited to our reentry symposium.
Yeah, so I was hoping I could get that list from you. And Dan, you spoke about the Fair Chance Guide. Is that what you said? So hopefully I could get that from you as well, but because there are obstacles coming out of prison, even with all the education that I got and how great I did and whatnot, there's a lot of doors that close in my face because of being a felon or because of my crime, being a violent offender or whatnot. And so I just think it's wonderful, all the pieces that you have set up to help us be successful regardless of how long we did or what we were there for or whatnot, that you see who we are, what we're doing, and that you want to help us be successful and change that recidivism rate. So I just really am grateful to be a part of the council, and thank you for having me, and I'll look forward to our next meeting.
Thank you for that input. Yeah. I'd like to talk about what we're wanting to do next.
Yeah, I wanna pull it up, but I need someone to give me permission to share. I guess it's not my meeting.
So I'm
I
gonna
don't know.
have Taylor actually put what she has on next for our goals.
This was based on today's
Coming.
conversation. I quick jotted these down, so there may be some things that we don't agree with, and that's okay. That's what this group is here for. So can you all see that okay? I could make it bigger, actually. I see a few squinting, including my own eyes, trying to figure out what that says. So what I've done is I've gone through just our basics of conversation today to let out some goals for each of these areas. And then what I'd like to do is assign some different committee members. You'll see that I've taken the liberty to put a few down already, but that was just to get us jump started, and you can volunteer for this, or we might call on you to do that. So the first one is the financial model that we discussed for the 2026 legislative session, working with UDC, USHE, and our ledge reps to propose a fiscally sustainable multi-source funding model for starting in fiscal year 2027 with a baseline annual budget determined by UDC, but probably in partnership with everybody. And then we talked about a few things today that maybe it should include, state appropriations, federal Pell Grants, private public institutional grants, philanthropy, and reinvested cost savings from reduced recidivism. So I've really assigned that to the people already named for that group, and then I think we can update it as we go. The next thing that we heard loud and clear was maybe a virtual education infrastructure. So establish a secure, scalable virtual education infrastructure across Utah's prisons and jails. This is highlighted because I don't know if it's realistic, and I'm not always realistic by fall 2026, so that's a year from now. Supported by means of digital learning platforms, adequate amount of secure devices, because we heard that today, and training to ensure equitable access. Snow's already in this space. David, you mentioned this, so I put you, and then you see some question marks. I heard UEN mentioned. I think UDC has to be a part of the conversation. We'll add Ensign to this. Are there other folks that might be interested in this from the group?
Can I just add one thing to this? Can we just say establish a safe and secure?
Yeah, I
Because
love
that's
that.
That's a big part of this, is just providing the safety on the side of the digital technology.
Okay. Okay, great, added. Okay, academic support staff. So I lumped like advising, mentoring, tutoring together. Thank you, Sister Nelson. I'll add your name also in that. But basically what we talked about was conducting a statewide assessment of academic student support practices to develop a standardized student-centered model that supports incarcerated learners. And then I have in here also to propose recommendations to this group by the first meeting that we have in 2026, because we have a meeting in a couple of months. I don't know if that gives us full time with all the other things going on to assess all of the student support practices. You all can disagree though, because I'm not the one doing this. So I don't know if you all want to move that date up or keep it at the beginning of 2026 that we'll have that established.
That's more realistic time frame.
Okay.
It's gonna take
Take a minute.
It's gonna take a minute.
Yeah, so.
My hearing aids don't work that well. Are you talking about me?
I said Dr. David Bacavoy would be happy to.
Yeah, he said chair. See where I have that question mark? Okay, we'll reach out and coordinate that one. Then we also have, okay, thank you, Sister Nelson. And then we also have reporting consistency. So this is something that we've already talked with Representative Ballard about, but we feel like there's a need for standardized monthly reporting with all of us. And so Richard and Dan have already started conversations of that. I'd love to get a degree granting institution in on maybe developing that initial reporting template. And the reason is because we all know this, but data at a technical college sometimes looks different than data at a degree granting institution, and semesters are different and that type of thing. So I'd love to get a degree granting institution, and just the three of you can meet to push out then a monthly template. I'm hoping that we could actually get that out in the next couple of weeks. So I put by October 2025, but I think we could release it in the next couple of weeks for you to fill out. And that way we'll have a couple of reporting cycles before our next HEC meeting. So if we'll be reaching out to our degree granting partners to get a volunteer if I don't hear one today.
I was told by a birdie that said that the U has maybe some research dollars for data collaboration, and also what it already exists in your wheelhouse for managing data for this success.
I can ask Erin to do it. I'd love that.
She's still on. I like this. Like, yeah, let's voluntold. I'm all about that.
Yeah, I mean, you can.
Just because you're a research institution, it's kind of what you do, right? And I think it helps validate what we're doing. So I think that'd be great to have you involved.
Okay, we'll reach out to you all, and then we'll reach out to you other DGIs that didn't volunteer to get someone else. Okay, this next one is student financial and institutional report, institutional funding report, you all. Okay, funding report for education, institution by institution. So this is something that Representative Ballard requested that we've talked about a few times today. You're all doing things a little bit differently. And if we really want to get a handle on how we're funding education, we need to understand what that looks like. And so a comprehensive analysis by the next meeting. So Richard will be sending out information or meeting with you all to understand exactly what you're doing, how the students are funded in those programs, how you are funding them maybe differently than in other ways, so that we can get a full scope of what that looks like. And then I just have employment, which is left, and we have UDC to partner with DWS, Sister Nelson, and Chamber to discuss ways in which incarcerated students and assistance professionals is what I called them. I don't know what you all call them. Know about jobs related to offered educational pathways, what are the needs of the labor market, which jobs require disclosure or for fair chance opportunities, and how released individuals can apply for them. And then we also put in the alignment of parole to location for more seamless.
I would add
reentry.
someone from Talent Ready Utah or from the governor's office, because that's what they do, right?
Okay, cool. Is there anything that doesn't align with what you heard today, or something that you'd like to add or remove from this list? I didn't see that comment. Sister Nelson's gonna be on them all. Oh, okay.
I think one thing that's kind of a side note that we now have Dan and also Chief Honey here that I'm always asking is, you know, ultimately the incentive of this is to change your life, change your outcome, change your opportunities for when you leave. What one student at graduation called the gated community of in being incarcerated. I thought that was a positive way of saying that, right? But I think, Dan, for you and Chief Honey to really look at how does this affect what the board sees, what incentives can be given. I think that's what I'd like to have you take away from this, Dan, and collaborate with Chief Honey, because another conversation we had is what incentives can we give? We you know, for fees or fines or financial issues or restitution, and you know, as we're even talking about, you know, the financial side of it, I want to talk, you know, to you and the board about really, I'd love to have you come back at another meeting and really give your perspective from the board of how all of this relates. And one other thing that came to mind was, OTRAC tracks all of this stuff. But through other conversations, I was told sometimes when inmates prepare to see you, they have to like opt in to share some of the completion or education. And can we make that more seamless? I think, and maybe it's already more seamless. I don't know. That's what I was told.
And that's when I reported on that, only acceptable standard. That's part of including all of that.
Okay,
So-
perfect, because I know that didn't used to exist.
So the individual service provider will actually sit down with the offender and says, all right, what do we need to include? Do we have everything? And that's part of that only acceptable standard.
And I would love, and maybe this is part of it, when they first arrive, that they start building a resume of things that they've done and what they're wanting to do. So it's learning how to continue to add to that resume for the board, but also for a job, right? Of learning that skill of showing their accomplishments, right? I think that's really helpful. So anyway, I'd love to have you come back and talk to us about what you see that the role of this council could help you in what you see from the inmates.
Yeah, that's great. I will definitely take note of that and get back to you all. And these incentives, possible incentives we could have. I think that's a great idea, whether it's earned time credit, additional earned time credit, or, you know, fees, restitution, things that you were mentioning. I think those are some good ideas.
Because one of the things that now is in statute is for UDC to let the inmate know what those incentives are. Sometimes they're financial and otherwise, and so if we can make that more transparent to them at any time rather than, oh, didn't somebody tell you, right? I think the more, that's what I want to be able to help UDC communicate for you as well when you have those things on. So anyway, thank you everybody for coming today. You can see, I already know what my caucus was going to talk about, and this is much more fun to be in. So anyway.
Is there any public comment?
Is there any public comment? You can raise your hand online. We've had such great discussion, and Nate, I want to look forward to that screenshot to tell my husband. That would be awesome. So anyway, thanks everybody. Thanks for taking the time to be up here physically and also online.
And do we need to make?
Thank you so much.
Adjourn.
Second.
All right, we got Dan doing another motion to adjourn. And Honey's ready to get out of here.
I've got a long night, so I'm actually not excited.
Oh, no.
I gotta stop at a couple other meetings.
Thank you.